Okay, so let's practice and talk about child's pose. This pose, the name in Sanskrit is Balasana with a B, child's pose. So many times this pose is discussed in class as a resting pose, and I urge you to see for yourself. If this becomes a very comfortable, relaxing pose, then you can use this if you need to take a break or you'd like to take a break during practice. But if child's pose is not a comfortable resting pose for you, and you do need to take a break during class, or you'd like to take a break during class, you can just lie down on your mat or hang out in some other comfortable position or seat if child's pose isn't that comfortable for you. But today we're going to talk about a few different versions. So I encourage you to test them out with me here and then maybe play around on your own. See where you can hang out in this child's pose for a number of minutes and find a comfortable place. And as always, if you need to add any props to make this pose more comfortable, please do so. So for instance, if you have something going on with your knees, you can always just put a blanket under your knees or fold your mat under your knees to give yourself a little bit more cushion. So at its most basic, child's pose, we sit back on our heels. So right now my knees are in line with my hips. I'm sitting back on my heels, and then I just fold my body forward. I extend my arms out long in front of me, and I let my head hang down. So this is the most basic standard version of child's pose. So here I can lengthen through my armpits. I can keep my elbows lifted. I'm actively reaching my forehead down towards the mat, but at the same time I'm actively trying to press my hips down back towards my heels. So I'm kind of lengthening in both directions here. So I would consider this to be a very active version of child's pose. You'll also feel, because the body is folded down right over your thighs, you're also going to feel some compression in your belly, in your ribs, maybe in your chest from being folded in such as this. And that's we actually do want that. It may be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but we do want that compression. That's how we kind of get digestion going. This is how we get blood pumping, is by we compress so that then the oxygen can flow and the blood can flow better. So I fold down, I reach my arms out. So this is the most active version of child's pose, let's say. Now, if I want to stay here, but I want to be a little bit more relaxing, maybe I just let my elbows touch the ground and kind of let my head hang down. So this is an option too. This could be child's pose. Also, maybe I want to take my arms down by my side. So maybe I want this little shoulder rounding and I want some relaxation. So I might take my arms down by the sides, turn my palms to face up, and just kind of round out and hang out here. Another version that people really like is you can take your knees wide to the mat. And the toes typically come to touch back here. So I might take my knees wide to the mat. Now, instead of that compression into my belly, now I kind of have space for my body. So now I can sit here, I can sink down. For me personally, my chest now touches the ground and maybe my forehead touches down. Maybe I turn my head from side to side. So this is generally a more relaxing version of child's pose. You could always even fold your arms and just kind of rest like so. And in addition, there are many other arm positions you can do. Sometimes we'll recommend bending into the elbows and bringing the hands together. We could also take props. We could also rest, take a really restorative version of child's pose. I could take a bolster underneath and kind of snuggle into a bolster here. I could place blankets behind my legs. So there are many options of this child's pose version. So I encourage you to try out the different ones that I've recommended here. So we'll just review those. So this would be the kind of the basic, most active child's pose. I sit back on my heels, and I understand if you can't directly sit back on your heels right away. You might start out more like this, a little bit further forward. But somewhat, imagine your bottom making its way towards your heels, whether it's up high or whether it's down low. And then I just have my arms stretched out in front of me. So this would be, I would call this version 1, or this is the active child's pose. And then version 2, the body doesn't really move, but the arms come down by the sides. So some people really like this. So we'll call this version 2, and then version 3, we're gonna open up the knees, take the knees wide to the mat. And then we're gonna sink down, and maybe we'll even relax our elbows here. So please take some time, play around with the different versions of child's pose, and see which one at the get-go is the most comfortable one for you. Which one can you hang out for 5 minutes or so and let it be relaxing for you? So practice those, practice all the different ones, and anytime you take a class, whether it's online or in person, you'll be guided into the different versions of child's pose anyway. So sometimes they'll tell you to pick your favorite version, and sometimes they'll guide you into a specific version for a specific reason. So practice it, enjoy it, notice how it feels to breathe in the pose, and see how it goes. See you next time.